Phillip Swan, I drive growth by creating simple, impactful experiences all the way from, what is it, Sweden? Are you Swedish? Is that right? Or
No,
was it?
not quite Swedish. I'm from that side of the world. I come originally from Scotland, by
Oh,
way
that's
of
over
England.
by Uganda, right?
That's
Right.
the one. Your U.S. geography lessons at school are definitely paid off there, right?
I'm nailing it, man. I'm
Yeah,
from Louisiana, so I mean, English was an elective. I mean, geography, whatever. Just where the fish biting. That's all we got to know,
that's it.
man.
Exactly.
Very nice. So great to have you on the show. Welcome. So yeah, University of, is it Glasgow? Like
Glasgow.
how do you
So we
say it?
pronounce it Glasgow, and just like Americans like to call Edinburgh, it's actually Edinburgh. So there you go.
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh.
Oh, you know what? So we're talking about,
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's a good one.
how do you say this?
Oh, Lafroig.
Lefroig.
Lafroig. That comes
Lefroig. All right. Look,
from LA.
here's one of my favorite. Balvenie.
Oh, Balvini's wonderful. Yeah, that's
Balvenie.
great.
All right. So Lefroig. So I'm flying home, and this was years ago, and I'm just tuning in to whatever is like on the airline TV channel, and there's a thing on Islay,
Islay.
Islay,
Yeah.
Islay, um, and I was mesmerized. So, what eight distilleries on a little island of 2,500 people,
That's exactly right.
and I'm like, I got to go there. So I've only been to I've been to London once, and that was several years ago. I've not made it to Scotland, but I was watching that, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in love with Scotland. And a good friend of mine, she married a guy, Scottish guy, and so I love the story. So, can you take me just next time you go home? Can you let me know, and I'll just tag along.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
No problem.
This is being recorded.
Here's
You're
the
being
thing.
held to
Here's the
this.
thing with here's the thing with Islay. There are no trees in Islay, so they make the heat the stills using peat, which is basically fermented moss, which is why it has that strong smoky flavor because
Yep.
of that.
I don't know if it's a flavor. I describe it to people. I'm like, if you've ever, like when you were a kid and you were playing on a rainy, muddy field and you fell down with your mouth open and you ate about 3 pounds of mud and grass and water,
Yeah, it's pretty
that's
close.
about what it tastes like.
Yeah, it's pretty close. That's a great description. It's pretty close.
This is a very
Lafroig.
old bottle and it's still about a quarter left.
There you go. There you go.
I sip it very slowly. So how the heck did you get into sales, marketing, go to market?
Oh my
What
gosh.
the heck? All the way over here on the west coast of the U.S.
That's a long journey, and the
I've got 3
journey started.
bottles. So,
The journey started when I was 8 years old in Scotland, growing up with a very Scottish mother who we used to always say, "I'm not cheap, I'm thrifty." I never got a day of pocket money in my life, and I said to my mom at 8 years old, "I want to get a road bike," and she says, "Well, how are you going to buy it?" And I said, "Well, I figure I'm getting a paper route." So I literally went and got a paper route. And then at the age of 9, I built my first distribution strategy where I hired 4 of my friends to expand it out, and I took a cut off of the top. And at the age of 14, I took my ill-begotten gains from my paper routes and
that's
bought.
not ill-gotten.
Probably not. It was hard earned. It was definitely hard earned. A lot of winter mornings and cycling on ice and not trying not to kill yourself in the middle of winter. But I then decided that I loved the outdoor working life so much that I would go and sell baby clothes of all things in a open-air flea market in Scotland. And that was the age of 14. At the age of 16, I was going to Hong Kong by myself and literally buying a container load of baby clothes as a 16-year-old wearing a white shirt and a tie, negotiating with Asian and literally with wads of cash and saying, "This is it. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it." And so I wanted to cut out the middleman, create as much value for myself as well as for my customers. And at the age of 20, when I graduated university, I had 20 stalls in 14 different markets, and I bought my first house for cash at that time. and I literally had just graduated university.
Mm.
My road was always going to get into business, but I wanted to focus on technology. So I wanted to serve my country. So I went to work for the British government, and then I ended up working in the US government, which brought me to the US back in 1988. And my wife, after we got married in 1990, we're still married after 34 years. She still kind of likes me. Was back then, it's like, you need to make a decision. We keep going with this career or we stay married, because I was disappearing for weeks at a time and I couldn't say where I was going. It was pre-cell phones, you couldn't just call. So I quit to go into industry, and it was the best decision I ever made in my life. It was the scariest decision in my life. And how I eased into sales was getting into technical sales. So I've always been focused on technology. And from going into pre-sales, I realized that I was making the salespeople all this money, and I was able to get my first sales job. I became the #1 salesperson globally for that company because I understood the product so well. I was able to really figure out new markets for the products within my territory, and I rapidly became their innovator globally. This is a global company called Wind River Systems. They were publicly traded. Me and my team were a global team, and we introduced the product into new industries like automotive, moving out of military and aerospace into automotive, into cable modems, into telephony equipment. And then from there, I got recruited to a turnaround company that created voice over IP called Telogy Networks that we sold to Texas Instruments for $1.6 billion.
And this is all like late 90s?
Yeah, this is late 90s.
Perfect timing, yeah.
Exactly. And I joined I got recruited to Microsoft after the acquisition back in 2000. Then I moved to Microsoft, and I ran 3 global divisions at Microsoft, all in sales and distribution. I had mobile, I had retail, and several other focuses. And Microsoft then became just too big. I'm not a big enterprise guy in working there, and so I went back to my entrepreneurial world, which is where I've stayed ever since, building the right product for customers, and getting those into the market, and then scaling in the market. So we look at everything from driving awareness and really understanding the customer, putting the customer at the center of every equation is absolutely critical for us and for any company. And really understanding that customer and what motivates that customer, and what, more importantly, will create value for that customer. And when you create value, price becomes less of an issue.
Well, why don't more people know that?
Yeah.
It is so obvious, so common sense, and so not done. And big companies especially, it's terrible. But even small businesses, they don't know that.
No, they don't.
They're product centered. It's me, we, I. They do not enter the conversation, going on the mind of the prospects. They do not see things from the customer's perspective. I see companies make this mistake, and individuals. I've got a client right now I'm doing some consulting with, and he's been in his business for literally decades, 20, 25 years. And I'm like, give me your pitch. You get me on the phone. What do you say? And I'm like, okay, that's terrible. It's like, no, we're going to change that. So now he's going back. He's doing the work. So kudos to him. Like, he recognizes it. He's thick skin. But great at his work, not great at selling his work. And that is the norm. Why are we allergic to selling? Why do we not know how to connect with other human beings to make a sale?
That's a really interesting question, because I flip that on its head a little bit when I talk to my clients. It's like everybody's a salesperson, whether it's the person answering the front door and I know that's a little bit old-fashioned in these days with hybrid working. I get that, but the point is, everybody in the organization, from the most junior level to the most senior level, including the board, really having the interest of the customer at heart. And people talk about, well, we need to align sales and marketing. That is just one piece. And you'd also think, after all these decades, Wes, that would be a solved problem, and it's anything but a solved problem. But more importantly, product, engineering, And then finance and legal all have to be brought into this customer centricity model, because if you miss it across your organization is not customer centric in any stretch of form. Whereas what we do is we go in and literally map out the entire business, and then we double click onto each part of the business and understanding who's the customer. Is it internal? Is it external? And how do we create a seamless experience within this one box? And then how do we join that seamless experience to the other boxes that are there, to where all of a sudden you have this seamless, apparently simple experience for the customers, where they go, you're not wasting my time. Every interaction I have with you, I learn something, I appreciate something, and I see value in working with you, and I trust you. And that it's that relationship with the customer, which the old day we used to call that pressing the flesh. And actually we used to travel around the world and go and see our customers and do the big dinners and the golf tournaments and all that stuff. And when all of a sudden the buyer has not changed, but the buying personality has changed. How they buy has changed. And Gartner says this very, very clearly with research. They have 76% of B2B and B2C buyers do not want to talk to a human being. They want to do their learning and their discovery at their own pace, form their opinions, and then from their own shortlist, then they may start talking to the companies they need to start issuing RFPs to, or to others. But in the beginning, they do not want to talk to human beings. So it's absolutely crucial in the buyer journey that you're forming a digital relationship with the customer, where that can be replaced with a physical relationship. But in the beginning, the strength and the trust comes out of that digital content, that digital copy, that digital presence that you've built around your brand architecture, that drives people to be attracted to your brand as opposed to repelled by it, right? And there are a lot of phases. So people talk in terms of the customer journey or the buyer journey from awareness through learning, discovery, intent, purchase, use, advocate. But there's one thing that most companies miss, and this is something that I want to share with your audience, is pre-awareness. And by pre-awareness, what does that mean? It's like driving your neighborhood where you live in Temecula, as an example. You know which grocery store you would go to for your bread, for your milk, or you go to Costco for this, or Target for that. You know instinctively, and you know that from driving around your neighborhood and your environment, that you are aware of these brands and what they do. So this is it's got true for B2B brands, B2C brands, and also D2C brands, is getting your ideal customer, or your persona, however you want to define it, your target audiences. How do you get them pre-aware before they even know they have a need for your solution? And that comes through through various activities and channels where people just suddenly become at their own pace aware that Acne-Co is there. And what does Acne-Co do? They kind of got an idea because they see their content, they're aware of just kind of what they do. And then all of a sudden, when they have need for a solution or a niche that needs to be scratched, that the company can scratch, you're already at the top of the list of companies that they will approach to actually have an opportunity to propose their solution to that company. Does that make sense?
It does. How does somebody do that? How does a smaller business with a smaller budget, they don't have an army, an entire staff, make that happen?
How do they make that happen? They couldn't have made this happen a couple of years ago. It would have been hard for them to do that. But with the advent of Gen AI and with really understanding prompt engineering, if you can mimic a team of 6 or 10 people with using various AI tools out there, and there are various. And I'm not talking about Chat GPT alone, right? There's several other tools out there that will help you really understand your audience, what motivates your audience, and what content through what channel. So B2B LinkedIn is clearly a channel, but if you're talking to engineers, maybe you should be talking over Discord to your channel, which is not something companies traditionally will think about. How do I get on Reddit? How do I get on Quora? Right? If I'm talking to engineers, because that's where engineers live, right? That's so you want to meet them where they play and where they live and where they work. And so there's no one answer for any one thing. It really depends on who your target audience is. And so really understanding that and really building a compelling value proposition for that target audience is super critical in actually delivering that initial digital value to those customers and those buyers.
So there are different tools. Are you selling these tools? Like what?
No.
Cause I mean, AI obviously is everywhere. Like on my newsletter, I use Beehive, and advertising opportunities like 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, or something about AI. And I've got a client right now. I'm helping him with his outreach and whatnot, and I'm showing him some different tools, and he's barely doing any outreach. And then but his critique, and this has always been one of the questions people have asked as I've sold software as a service, CRM tools, marketing automation, they say, does it have A/B split testing? And I'm like, you're not sending one email out. Now you want to send 2 of them, 3 of them? Like, let's get you doing one right now on a regular basis. Then we'll worry about the rest. So, and this is a fundamental tool, right? Email marketing.
Yes.
I mean, that's been around for decades. And now here comes AI. Maybe it's a year old. It's hit kind of mainstream. It's going to be a long time before people know how to use this tool properly.
Well, individuals, yes, but there are ways to do.
Yes.
So there from there. So AI is not anything new. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I grew up in engineering. Right, I was an engineer. We were programming AI back in 1981 when I was at university. Right, it's nothing new. It's been around since the late 40s. And Alan Turing, who was a hero of mine, he came up with the whole concept of how do you determine artificial intelligence versus human intelligence. And the drive for AI that people forget is it's not about the algorithm. It's not about the large language model. It's not about the data. It's all about the human expertise. So how we advise our clients when they're talking about AI is we first of all ask them, what future are you solving for? Right, and understanding what the end game is. And then reverse engineering that. So, and how we start off by reverse engineering it is, AI is all about human expertise. It's all about automation. And that's how AI has progressed into what we see today. It started off with scraping, then it turned into remote process automation. We've always had machine learning for the last several decades. Automotive is a huge user of machine learning in vehicles. BMW was one of the first real adopters of machine learning back in the very early 90s into their vehicles. And so the amounts of data that they have around people has just grown exponentially to where we are today. And how we advise our customers is like, what superpowers do you have and do you need within your organization to drive your organization forward? Well, that's a different question. Now we talk about how do we automate that and take those superpowers and throw fuel on the fire and actually explode that into hyperscale, right? Where so you're using AI to really automate, I'll say, the boring stuff, right? All of the mechanics of getting things, which is why I stress that people are not going to be replaced by AI, but people who use AI will replace you. And that's the big difference.
Interesting. All right. So how can that small business get up to speed on this?
Trial and error. Do not be afraid. Test, test, and listen there. And we've put together guides on, on prompting. We'll gladly share, how to, a rapid acceleration course on prompting. Because the way you need to think about these tools is that you've got this amazingly smart baby, right? That is, that that's going to have the IQ of 185, right? But the baby has no sense yet, right? So how do you teach it? And it's literal. It is very literal. So you have to be very clear in what you're asking for the prompt. So prompting has changed dramatically since November 2023, when 2022, when ChatGPT became somewhat mainstream. Being able to ask complex questions now and so you get to the answers that you want is incredibly difficult to learn. So you have to have resilience to learn it, and and not be afraid to make mistakes. And the other key thing to watch out in AI, especially for small business users, and because we do coach small business users on doing this, is to be aware of something called hallucination. And hallucination is where the data is presented to you, the end user, in such a way where it looks absolutely true when in fact when it is not. And so which is why I tell people, if you are going to be using these chatbots, don't just use one, use at least 3, and then take the data that it's giving you, apply logical analysis and critical thinking, and then make your decisions on this. Because that way you get to a level of truth, because people are assuming that what comes back. And how we see this manifest itself in today's day and age, images, we've seen terrible hallucination in images that are Gen AI, whether it's coming from DALI or whatever, Midsummer, Midjourney, sorry, or whomever you're using for your image generation. You physically see it there, but it exists very much in the written word as well. And it can really impact propaganda at the state level and nation state level. It can promote untruths about business and lead you down a path that is absolutely not right. So you've got to be really careful of hallucination, and many people are not careful of hallucination.
Well, you see that evidenced by how people conduct themselves online, and politics, and whatever, economics. I mean, people are not that smart. And we've taken away the ability to have logical, deductive, coherent, polite conversation. You hear the old adage, never mix, don't discuss sex, religion, politics, and mixed company, whatever. Like, what else is there to talk about? It's like, okay, the Open is on now, right? We ugly Americans call it the British Open. But the Open is on right now. It's like, okay, I can talk about golf for a minute. But
yeah,
I want to talk about sex, money, religion, politics, business. I mean, all the no-no things. So we've grown up now for generations. Don't talk about those things. Now people cannot talk about those things. They can't even think about those things.
I know.
And now we've got to come up with prompts to tell a computer how to function. And we can't even enunciate, qualify, quantify what the hell we even want. We don't even know what we want. Like, Henry Ford, what do they want? They want a faster horse. People don't know what they want. You tell them what they want.
That's right. Steve Jobs used to say that. Really, you articulated that extremely well as well for his products. You've got to show people what they want, and then they'll see it and they'll buy it. People, and this is why in the States, you don't see this in Europe, and it's more of a cultural thing. When you're buying a house in the States, you empty it with furniture, you take all your paintings off the wall, and it gets staged, right? You have a professional stager comes in that puts the generic, nice-looking stuff that that's unbiased and everything else in there. In Europe, they don't do this. I'm actually curious. I still can't figure out why they don't do it in Europe, because people, to your point, it's not that they're stupid. It's that most people do not have an imagination.
They have no imagination.
right? Because I think people are generally smart. I have confidence in the human nature. Now, there are people who are smart that do dumb things, but that's a totally different situation, right? And I think you and I will have probably been guilty of doing some very dumb things.
I think we have been dumbed down. I call it, it used to be bread and circus, right? So
Yeah,
that was true 2,000 years ago. I call it pot porn and playoffs. We're just numb. We're just, I got my, alcohol, drugs. I got my porn. I got my sports. Sports are on all the time. Um, I don't have to get smart.
yeah,
So
yeah.
people just mumble and fumble and bumble through life.
And then they get
Uh,
lazy. And then they
yeah, I
get lazy.
mean, we have the potential to be smart. We have unlimited potential.
We
Certainly,
do.
certainly extraordinary potential, if not unlimited, but people don't choose it. I mean, and I see this across the board. It's I don't know. Well, yeah, that fancy thing. I mean, the Air Force Academy. It's a legit school, right? It's
There's-
I don't know what top 20, top 50 in the world. I don't know. I mean, it's up there. And I got classmates, and we disagree about important things in business and life and politics, and um, they're wrong.
I taught I taught at the Air Force Academy for quite a bit, actually.
You did?
So yeah, the Springs, absolutely. I was down there. I was down there extensively from 88 through 92, teaching.
What?
Oh, yeah, I
I
know.
was there
Weird,
from
huh?
88 to 92.
Well, then you may have been in one of my classes. We were teaching. We were focused on security and early stages of cybersecurity. So
Oh,
it was.
okay. So funny story, right? I was the second class to be issued computers,
Oh, really?
and I hated computers. I hated technology. My brain did not work that way. Oh my gosh. I remember, so we had those big Mongo printers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you wander through the squadrons at all? Or
Oh,
in
yeah.
the dorms? We had a SAR, right? The squadron assembly room. And we had, a printer that was, I bet I never tried to lift it, but it was probably 800 pounds. I don't know. Big commercial thing. And they were networked, but, you get an assignment. Hey, write a 1-page, 2-page summary of whatever, blah, blah, blah. Okay. It takes you 30 minutes. It would take you 2 hours to print the damn thing.
Yeah.
So you're making friends with all the rich kids whose parents bought them a printer. Like, dude, lunch on me. Can I print this thing? What a pain. That's
Yeah.
unbelievable. We were there the same 4 years.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. I was brought in as to start teaching because that was work that I was doing back in Maryland area when I was working in Maryland. So
Oh my gosh, I hated computers. And my computer science class, it was a captain. I forget his name. He was a cool dude. If you went to see him after hours, right? So they call it EI, I think, extra instruction. And if
yeah.
you just tried to write some code, he would just get frustrated and take it from you and write. He would do your homework for you. So I was like,
Yeah.
well, you had to put forth the effort, at least try and then go ask for help. And I didn't like computers till much later. Now I live on them, but that's funny.
You didn't know Mike Devlin or Paul Levy when you were there, did you?
I did. I know them both.
Excellent.
That's funny. What a small world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. So anyway, people are not that smart, man.
That's right. Certainly, they don't apply their imagine.
So, because like I see it with software, right? Selling again, like Infusionsoft and HubSpot, and the customer always blames the technology.
Yeah.
Dumb CRM, dumb email. I'm like, dude, this is on you.
Yeah.
You can't think logically, because one of the things that I give away, a little planning tool, and I do with people right up front, I call it process before login. I'm like, let's document your current plus ideal process. Then we'll go check out some tools and see which ones fit the need. Kind of like writing a grocery list before you go shopping.
Yep.
And it hurts their head. We call, send a letter, and they buy. Okay.
Yeah.
We need a few more specifics. What if you send an email and they don't open it? What if they open and read it but don't click? What if they click and land on the page but don't register? What if they register but don't show up? What if they show up but don't stay till the end? What if they stay till the end but don't buy? What do you do in each of those steps? All right, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like going back to the AI, like the prompts and how do you instruct it? People
Right.
don't even know what they don't know.
Correct. And so it's about, so there are tools out there that, there's a lot of resources out there to help a small business owner or anybody for that matter. You'll learn how to prompt properly. And we do provide, like I said, out of our own edification, we provided some guides on that. But the big thing also is that, when people don't want to challenge their own beliefs, right? And change happens around us. So the question is, do we let change happen to us, or do we actually be the instigators of change? Because it's going to happen one way or another.
Yeah.
And so how do I, even from a small business owner, how do I take this superpower, even if it's my own superpower, and create a digital twin of my superpowers? And I literally call it a digital twin, so that I can now go to myself times 2, times 3, times 4, and really allow myself to scale as an individual and as part of a team and collaborating. So the way we attack problems with our clients is we build little swarm teams, and it's usually pods of 4 to 10 people, depending on what the problem is that we're solving. And we literally, like we do in university, we would swarm a problem until we solve it. And to your point about the process and joining one of the first things we do is we literally use tools like Visio or Lucid Charts or whatever tool it is you're going to use, and literally draw the business out in terms of process. When you got buying it, this is what it looks like, doing the double click. Okay, who's the customer? Is it internal or external? And then really understanding what experience for this one box do I need to create in order to create this seamless flow for the clients to get to the point where they are actually spending money with us and spending money with us and more money with us over time, as we get this land and expand motion going and really expanding the network out. Because audience, guess what? What held true 30 years ago holds true today. People buy from people they like. And they use their head for logic, and people buy with their hearts. It's an emotional decision. Make no mistake about it, which is why the digital relationship is so critical, because you're still dealing with the emotions of the buyer who's going through their journey.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, what I tell folks is knowing, liking, and trusting, right? That's something. But I think, and I tell people, I think the biggest thing is trust, right? I got to know you. I think that's 1%. I gotta like you. That's 1%. I don't even have to like you, because 98% is trust. If I trust you, even if I don't like you, even if I don't really know you, I will buy from you. Otherwise, I think, and most people don't follow that. That's why they turn into professional visitors.
Yeah.
I'm just building rapport, getting my name out there, building brand awareness. No, you're spending the company's money. Go golfing, go to dinner, drink some nice scotch. No, go sell something. They're not trusted.
And I believe that the fundamental SDR model is broken, because how people are using KPIs or doing number of meetings, number of calls, number of this, number of that. None of that freaking well matters, right? You're actually pissing your customers off by incessantly banging on them. You get me calls. I'm not interested. This is not how I'm buying. It goes back to Gartner's research, which is hardcore research. They fall into that 76% of the people that are like, I'm going to learn this on my own. I'm going to, and it gets to my point of being ready to purchase, and then I start doing that.
What I think, I mean, it could be a chicken and the egg thing, right? But because I think technology has gotten better, and I've always argued that the role of the salesperson has changed. We're no longer the keeper of the knowledge, right? The internet makes things available. The swarm, the hive mind, Reddit, Quora, LinkedIn, you can get answers quickly, and you can get the truth quickly. So now salespeople, I think, are there to help prospects become confident in making the decision. That's why they've got to trust you. So I trust that you're giving me the right advice, that this is the best decision for me right now in my situation. So, but because of technology and social media and then COVID and work from home, we have a decade or more of people, a generation almost, that are not good at communicating. They can communicate over a headset playing a game with their peers, but they're not face to face. And so now that 76%, it's like, yeah, the internet has gotten better. They can get answers of social media. But at the same time, I think the ability of humans to be salespeople, professional salespeople, has fallen through the floor.
I don't disagree with you at all on that, Wes.
Right?
That's a very wise and astute observation. And because I think the other part of it is, and I see this, my kids are in their mid to late 20s, and they're your typical entitled, no resilience young adults, right? At 28, I already had a family, right? I'd already served my country, right, twice. I don't see this level of seriousness about family, about integrity, ethics. Everybody talks about it. I just don't see the same level as it was, in the environment I certainly grew up in. I think it's personally that we've lost this, and the best salespeople out there today are the best listeners. But you know what they're also worse at? Time management. Time management for salespeople is pretty bad, which is why they spend so much time working in CRM and everything else, because it's doing the work that they hate versus the work that they love, right?
Yeah.
But we've got to get our reports, we've got to get our data. It's not about, I don't believe in data-driven decisions. I believe in reason-driven decisions.
Reason?
Reason-driven, and the difference between data-driven and reason-driven decisions is, with reason-driven decisions, you take the data, which is critical, and you apply logical analysis and critical thinking to that data to enable you to make the best decisions out there. Whereas there are a lot of companies out there that we work with that are still stuck, well, if the data's not telling us, then we're just not going to do it. I'm like, the data is only an indicator, right? And you've still got to apply reality, the real human element to this. To this. And so companies that have lost their way of being primarily data-driven, and as we switch into more reason-driven and having that stick within the organizations, we're seeing the scale starting to happen. They're killing sacred cows. They're managing their go-to-market plans, plural, across the board, and they're understanding their customer. Everybody in the company is aligned around the customer, and all of a sudden they go like, well, we've gone from this terrible growth rate to, oh my God, we're hitting hyperscale, and we're doing it in the space of 18 months, 24 months, and they're just, everybody's happy at that point. Investors are happy, the board's happy, the C-suite's happy. More importantly, the employees are happy. And guess what? Back to the early point, 50% of every brand are the employees themselves. Customers sense this, they smell it, they taste it, they want to touch it, they want to be part of it, right? And there's a whole thing with culture. What are the first four letters of culture? It's CULT. And these are, and we've made it through the media a negative word. You form a cult around your CEO. You form a culture around that CEO. You look at Elon Musk. You look at Steve Jobs. You look at Bill Gates. You look at any number of the best leaders out there. They've formed a cult around themselves, right? And it's not in a negative sense that they're going to be setting themselves aflame and going off to meet the latest starship that's coming across our, the orbit of the Earth, right? It's it's very real. It's very tangible. People are social. People want to be part of that club, and I want to be smart enough to be part of that club. And the club is the brand, right? Whether it's HubSpot or Microsoft or Google or whatever brand du jour that for clothes, right? For me, it's Tommy Bahama, right? And it's just the brands that you trust and the people that you trust.
Yeah. Well, and going back to, reason driven, it's like talking about the Air Force Academy, right? Remember Scully,
Yeah, oh yeah,
landed in the Hudson,
oh yeah,
as soon as they hit that bird strike, he flipped some switch. Now, the data driven decision, that was like step 15
yeah,
in their emergency procedure checklist. He did it first. Or like, why'd you do that? He's like, it just felt like the right thing to do. That's what experience and being human. Computers are great. I mean, it was years ago, right? IBM Watson beat the chess player.
right.
Okay, so computers are really smart, but they're still not as smart as us.
Yeah,
If you listen to that gut, trust your instinct, right? You,
right.
but it was
You give
developed. It didn't
absolutely
just come to him. That was a lifetime of flying and training and preparing
correct.
to be
They
that
took
good,
that
that
seminal
correct.
moment, right? It's that seminal moment that I keep talking about with clients. What is your seminal moment in doing all of that? And there are many out there. I mean, Starbucks, as an example, is a great example. I had I had Howard Schultz on my board on one of my consumer packaged goods companies, and so I got to learn a lot about this how Starbucks really grew their brand, and it was about it wasn't about niching down. Everybody talks about niching down and hyper personalization, which, by the way, as a former guy that comes out of the intelligence community, is like, that's just creepy. That is just plain freaking creepy, right? It's like, um, and so you've got to be really careful responsibly of how you're using customer data, right? And responsibility, so that when you are touching it, it doesn't come across with that creepy factor, right? Oh, how do they know I'm pissed off today, right? I'm upset at whatever it is, and all of a sudden I've got this advertisement for XYZ product that would solve that problem. I mean, how the hell do they know that? I mean, this has happened to me. I'm going, I've radically changed my whole privacy profile as a result of it. And it's just nuts what people know about you. And so how do you actually get inside the buyer's head without being invasive? And how do you do it in such a way that is going to attract that buyer to you versus repelling them? It's a very fine dance, and it's a sophisticated dance. And the trick of making that sophisticated dance, it's like seeing a good tango. They make it look simple. It's making it complex simple. And that's what we really focus in on with all of our clients, is that taking something that is overtly complex and just going like, well, how in the hell did we do that? And it's just like, it's by going down to basics, working actually in spreadsheets, taking live data, putting it into spreadsheets, creating pivot tables, and going old school. Because a lot of these tools that are out there, no offense to your audience who are part of this, they were programmed by white, pimply 24-year-olds, right, who have no experience and got all of this cognitive bias into these tools. And so I don't rely on these tools for the core work that we do. I go old school every single time. And don't be lazy. Don't get lazy, just because the tools are out there. Really, when you really understand that data, you can really apply that logical analysis. You can really apply that critical thinking and come up with decisions that people go like, oh my God, that is simple. And simple sells.
Yes. So is that what you do? I mean, who should call you? Small
So
business, big business, a CEO, CMO, COO,
C-suite.
solopreneurs.
So C-suite is our sweet spot. We do coach entrepreneurs, so we do have our own private coaching practices that we do for CEOs. We typically work with companies Series B and beyond, and the reason for that is that we want to work with companies that have a product that's in market, that they're having some success selling, be it limited or otherwise, but they have some success and they have customers that like them. They may not love them, but they like them. That is great fodder for us to start, because we can now dissect, okay, what is unlocking? What can we do to unlock the revenue growth and scale? So people who come to us are companies that know they've got a good product, but haven't figured out how to attract the right customers, or at least the right customers in volume, to actually subscribe or purchase the services or products that they offer. So it's companies of all sizes, but the reason we go with Series B and beyond is that they've already got some momentum.
What was that last part?
Momentum. They have some momentum behind them, right? They're not growing at 100% per year or whatever growth rate they're expecting. They're getting some, tepid growth. My last client, which I just finished before we recently left for our 3-week vacation to Europe, was exactly in this situation where they had tepid growth, but they had a great product, and the customers they had were loving them. I interviewed the customers. We interviewed the customers. It wasn't just me. And we really understood what was causing the friction. And, we've highlighted that. We've given them a plan how to eliminate that friction. And we'll see how they start to grow and how they start to scale. And you've got to start with something. And, as much as we loved working with raw startups and the energy of raw startups, the problem is that most startups fail. And so you don't see the success of your work the way that we normally do from Series B or beyond. And the people we talk to are CEOs, board members, investors, CMOs, CROs. And in the last case, it was actually the CFO who approached me for this because he realized that they needed to unlock it, and he knew me through somebody else, right? And so it's all about unlocking that value and creating that seamless experience, which is why the header in my LinkedIn profile says what it does, because we're not taking anything away. We are about adding that seamless experience into something that is already existing and repackaging it in a way that allows customers to come to you versus you going to them.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I'm linking to your phillipswan.com and your LinkedIn profile. Those are the best places.
Those are the best places. And in my LinkedIn profile, which is under LinkedIn Phillip with 2 L's -SWAN, like the bird. First thing you'll get to is my weekly newsletter. I encourage you to your audience to subscribe to that. It's completely free, no obligations at all. And every week I delve into every part of the buyer journey in one form or another and go into detail with real solutions they do. So we're all about giving. People be like, you're telling too much. We believe in giving, that it's going to be that you go like, I like how this person thinks, or this team thinks, and this company thinks. I like the successes that I'm hearing about them in the industry. And that attracts into us to actually become, a client of ours. But I encourage the audience to check that out. I get into sales, I get into revenue operations, I get into marketing, I get into products, I get into cultural issues. It runs the gamut that we talk through.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, give away your best stuff for free up front, right? Build that trust. I get to know you. I'll decide if I like you or not, but if you give enough stuff for free, I certainly trust you, and I'll probably like you anyway, then I'll buy from you.
That's right.
So
that's exactly it. That's
it. Cool, huh?
Yep.
All right. Well, Mr. Phillip Swan of Air Force Academy fame, you should have just opened with that.
Well, I didn't graduate from Air Force Academy.
I know, but hey, you were shaping the minds while I was there, So
that's what I like doing.
You were smart enough to avoid me, so that kept you young and invigorated. I'd have made you quit technology if we met then.
And what you don't know is that in my wall over here, my favorite plane in the whole world is this one. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, nice.
So it's the Lancer. It's my favorite plane in the whole world. So it's that's what we're doing.
Very nice. All right. Cool. Well, thanks for taking the time. It was great catching up with you. Have a great day.
You too.
Cheers.
We'll see you.